Welcome to today's lesson on grade 9 mathematics. Today we will be reviewing worksheet 1 of expressions. So let's get started. Question 1a. We have minus 6x plus 5 plus 12x minus 6. So we can add or subtract like terms. Minus 6x plus 12x gives you 6x. And then plus 5 minus 6 gives you minus 1. And that's as far as we can simplify this equation. So B has brackets. So the very first thing we need to do is we need to factorize into the brackets. So this is 2 times x gives you 2x. 2 times a negative 9 is minus 18. Positive 6 times a negative x gives you negative 6x. Positive x times a positive 2 gives you positive 12. And then we're left with our 4x at the end. So now we can add all of our like terms. 2x minus 6x leaves you with negative 4x, plus 4x leaves you with a 0x. Negative 18 plus 12 leaves you with minus 6. C doesn't have any brackets, but we do have squared terms. We have 3x squared and we have 6x squared, so we can add or subtract those. So we ended up with 3x squared plus 6x squared gives you 9x squared. And then we have a 9x minus x that gives you a plus 8x. And then 12 minus 20 gives you a negative 8. So question 1D, we have multiple brackets, which means we need to factorize our brackets. So we have x times a variable and constant in the other bracket, and then we have 2 times the variable and the constant in the other bracket. And we do the same for the other set of brackets. So x times x is x squared, 2 times x is 2x, and x times 4 is 4x, and then we have 2 times 4 is 8. So we have x times a negative x gives you negative x squared. X times the negative 1 gives you negative x. 5 times negative x gives you negative 5x. And then 5 times a negative 1 gives you a minus 5. So let's simplify this further by adding or subtracting like terms. So let's start with the x squared. So we have x squared minus 8 squared leaves you with a 0. 2x plus 4x is 6x. And then we have negative x, negative 5x. That leaves you with negative 6x. And then we have a plus 8 and a minus 5. And plus 8 and minus 5 leaves you with 3, plus 3. So we have 6x minus 6x, which is 0. So our final answer is 3. Moving on to E, we are going to have to factorize into our bracket once again. So we end up with 1.2x minus 10.8. And then a minus 2.3 times x is a minus 2.3x. And then we have minus 9.2. You can use your calculator for these decimals. So saying 1.2 times negative 9 gives you negative 10.8. And also negative 2.3 times 4 gives you negative 9.2. Also use your calculator when adding or subtracting these constants. So we have 1.2x minus 2.3x gives you minus 1.1x. And then minus 10.8 minus 9.2 gives you minus 20. Alright, moving on to question 2. So question 2, these are all expressions involving fractions. So what you need to remember is that if you move any expression from the denominator into the numerator, the sign of the factor changes. So if we have, say, a to the power 1 in the denominator, you bring it up, it becomes a to the power -1, and vice versa. So let's have a look at question 2a. We have ab squared a cubed b over a squared b cubed. So we can, what happens if we multiply factors? We add them. So we have a to the power of 1, and we have b to the power 2, and we have a cubed and b to the power of 1, all over a squared b cubed. So when we're going to be adding these, we're going to say a to the power of 1 plus 3, because we're adding that one and that one. And we're going to have it b to the power 2 plus 1, all over a squared b cubed, which is a to the power 4, b to the power 3, all over a squared b cubed. So now we can bring our denominators up to the numerators, which means we change their sign. So we have a to the power 4 minus 2, because we're taking this 4 and we're making that 2 a negative. And we have b to the power 3 minus 3, which is a to the power 2, b to the power of 0. And you know anything to the power 0 is equal to 1. So our final answer is a squared. Alright, if you're unsure of the way that I've done any of this, I would suggest that you go back and you relearn your rules of your expressions and how to add, when do you subtract, when do you multiply, that kind of thing when it comes to the factors. So let's look at b. b is 21 x to the 5 all over 3 x to the 4. So the first thing that we can do is we can see that we have a common 3x to the 4. If we break it down, we have 3x to the 4, and if you had to multiply that or something to get 21x to the 5, you would multiply it by 7x, and then you have it all over 3x to the 4, which means these cancel and you're left with 7x. Or you could do it another way, and you could say 21 divided by 3 is 7. So you have 7x to the 5 all over x to the 4. And then you can bring your denominator into your numerator, and you can say 7x to the 5 minus 4, which leaves you with 7x. Okay? Two different ways that we can solve, both ending up with the same answer. Alright, so let's have a look at C. So first of all, we have two brackets, and inside our brackets we have coefficients. So we have numbers in front of our variables, which means we need to multiply those as well. So we have 6 times 4 is equal to 24, x to the 4, y squared. All over 3 times 16 is 48, and then we have x squared and y. So once again, we can take out a common, what is the smallest number and factor that we can take out. So we can take out 24 x squared y, and we're left with, at the numerator, just x squared y, and then we can take out 24x squared y, and you're left with 2. So these cancel, and you're left with x squared y all over 2, or we can say a half x squared y. Looking at question D, we have 4x minus 12 over 4. We can take out a common 4 in the top bracket, and we're left with 4 into x minus 3 all over 4, which means the 4's cancel, and you're left with x minus 3. That's a simple one. Moving on to E, you have two quadratic equations, which means we need to factorize these into their respective brackets before we're able to cancel anything. So x squared minus 4x minus 12, what numbers of 12 when added or subtracted, like factors of 12 when added or subtracted, will give us 4. That's 6 and 2. So our top bracket will be, you have two brackets like this when you're factorizing quadratic equations. You have x and x. You have two minus signs, which means you're going to need a negative and a positive. And then 6 and 2, if you have negative 6 plus 2, it's going to give you negative 4. So you have negative 6 plus 2. Okay, top quadratic equation is factorized. Then we have another quadratic equation. So we have x and x. Also two negatives. So we're going to have a negative and a positive. And what two factors of 24 are going to, when added or subtracted, give us negative 2? And that would be 6 and 4. So we have minus 6 and plus 4. So we can cancel our negative x minus 6 and x minus 6. And you're left with x plus 2 all over x plus 4.